Howdy, folks. Welcome to Grounded, a HomeLand Properties Roundtable Podcast, where we discuss land, timber, real estate, and everything in between.
Everybody, welcome back to another Grounded Roundtable Podcast by HomeLand Properties. This is episode number 11. We're happy to have Texas Farm Credit here with us. We've got Sam and Angela. They both work here and are very integral in the Texas Farm Credit system. So if y'all want to introduce yourselves and say what's up.
Yeah, I'm Sam Alders. I am the incoming branch manager for Texas Farm Credit Nacogdoches. I began working in the East Texas market in 2018 with a commercial bank, and then moved to Farm Credit with Angela in a couple of years later. I grew up in the Nacogdoches area, and I live here now with my wife and our 2 kids.
And I'm Angela Shannon. I've been with Texas Farm Credit for nearly 30 years, which I have found to be the most rewarding career I ever could have imagined because, we specialize in helping people buy Texas land.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to appreciate what an important decision that is for them. Many times, this is a legacy that will be passed on to their children and their grandchildren.
That's right.
And in order to help them facilitate that is just one of my greatest joys.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased to be here with you and look forward to helping you with this podcast. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're very excited to have y'all on. I guess, do y'all want to tell us a little bit about, kind of the whole farm credit system and how it works and your part in that?
Texas Farm Credit itself has been a lending partner in East Texas and South Texas for over 100 years. We strive to offer reliable, consistent credit and financial services to our members who are also borrowers. Our mission is to support the rural communities in which we live and work, supporting every corner of agriculture and rural land ownership. How that translates to East Texas and when we work with agents such as y'all, we handle properties ranging from 10 acres all the way up to 100,000 acres, and really anywhere in between.
Awesome. How does it differ from like a typical mortgage? Like if I'm going to buy a home versus going to buy land, what are the differences there?
Well, there are quite a few differences between Texas Farm Credit and a standard mortgage lender.
Mm-hmm.
One that I really like to highlight is our structure as a member-owned cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
So our borrowers are owners of Texas Farm Credit, and that ensures that we keep our customers' interests at the forefront of everything that we do, every decision that we make, and that stays true as we pursue our mission in rural land ownership. We probably, we've got other differences that we will probably highlight or touch on as our conversation continues.
Yeah.
But Angela, any other things that you'd want to weigh in?
Sure. A lot of people are probably familiar with buying a home and the process that happens there. Land's a little bit different. I wouldn't say that it's more or less complicated. It's just different. For example, buying a home, banks and lenders view that to be the least risky loan that can be made because, if a person is going to default on one of their loans, their home is probably the last thing that would meet that criteria.
Right.
So land is considered a little bit risky. Often that's purchased for recreation or for investment. And so one of the differences is the down payment is usually higher.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
When it comes to financing land, with a home mortgage, many people can get away with a 3% down payment or a 5% down payment, where land, the typical down payment is 20%.
20, yeah.
And, the terms are a little bit different too. For example, home loans generally are structured for 30-year notes.
Yeah.
Land is generally 20.
Mm-hmm.
But that can vary too, depending upon the situation. And I will say that there are some definite advantages when you're comparing land lending to home lending.
Mm-hmm.
In in the first one that comes to mind is that we have a lot of flexibility that is not there on the home loan side. Most of that is regulated, and home loans have to meet a very specific criteria. Where with land, we're able to really customize that loan. For example, we often do semi-annual payments or annual payments. That would never be allowed with a home loan.
Yeah.
And then, specific to East Texas, with timberland, with a management plan or a harvest plan, we can actually set up loan repayment to match when that timber is going to be harvested to reduce the principal of that note, rather than like a monthly payment that a person would make on their home loan.
Interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So what areas do y'all cover? I mean, is it a pretty vast majority of East Texas, or do y'all have specific counties that y'all work in?
Our lending territory is 101 counties across East Texas, and then ranging across South Texas. We don't cover Harris County, but everywhere around there, and then all across East Texas as you build up, and then north around to Tarrant County, and I think that's Dallas County right up there. So it's a wide area. We have a lot of different commodities that we finance, but across East Texas, we'll take deals from just about every county. I think over the past couple of years, I don't know of an East Texas county that we've not covered.
Really? So if I come to you, Sam, and I'm living in, so I'm in Harris County, but I'm looking to buy something here in Nacogdoches County, you can facilitate that, I guess, that loan.
Yeah, and you bring up a really great point, Miller. So our lending territory allows for both where the land is being purchased, but also where the customer's operational base is. And so if a customer is buying land in Arkansas or Louisiana, but their operations are based out of Houston County or Nacogdoches County, we don't have an issue financing that.
So you can finance something up in Arkansas potentially if they live, in this area. That's interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, that's really cool. And can y'all do, like ag loans as well? Are y'all able to lend on like cattle and stuff like that as well? Is that part of y'all's?
Absolutely, Miller. We do many types of production lending related to forestry. We do sawmills and harvesting equipment. Related to farming and cattle operations. We can finance the cows, we can finance the equipment, and the land, of course. So anything that's related to agriculture falls under our umbrella. And, we're very proud to say that we specialize in that, because that sets us apart. Agriculture is not a typical business. There are many ups and downs. There are many nuances. There are many tax situations that can affect an operation. So we think that our knowledge and specialization in those industries really can be a benefit and bring value to our customers.
Once we get that contract to y'all, what does that look like from there on y'all's end?
It's an interesting relationship. Certainly, we're reliant upon our name recognition and our ability to market to the East Texas area, so that consumers are aware that we do finance raw land, and that realtors such as y'all know who to reach out to for particular raw land deals. But when we do take over a transaction, so we first assess the financial capability of the borrower, basically a financial picture of their current condition, and so we take their most recent tax returns, we take a current balance sheet, and various other entity-related documents if they're buying it under an entity. Then from there, we underwrite the deal. We make sure that we structure it according to their plans for the property and their ability to repay. And then we move from there to assess the condition of the collateral. So we order an appraisal, and that's another relationship that's been critical to how we operate, and it's a testament to Angela in no small part that if we need to get a quick appraisal turnaround, Angela's developed these relationships over the course of her career that we can say, hey, we don't like to do this, but there's extenuating circumstances, and there are very few appraisers that we've worked with that won't be understanding and accommodating to a really quick turnaround request, and that's a huge advantage to have.
Sure, Sam.
Yeah.
And I'll add, just having the right appraiser on the job is critical for financing rural property.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges that we've seen, over the course of my career is, let's just take an example of a typical couple who owns their home. This is a property that they want to buy for recreation, for their family lifestyle. They want to get the kids out of the house and out of the
Right.
city.
Absolutely.
Instead of playing video games, they want to go to the property and adopt that lifestyle. Well, lots of times, because they're comfortable with the process that they went through when they bought their home, they go back to that bank. And that's great. They know them. They know that they pay on time, it's credit worthy.
Right.
But a common mistake is that bank will hire a residential appraiser instead of an agricultural or a timberland appraiser. And that can cause big problems, especially in East Texas, because, many properties are wooded, have commercial timber value.
Right.
And if the appraiser does not know how to value that timber, often the appraisal will come in short, and then we're within 3 days of closing and there's a big problem. Yes.
Yeah.
So knowing who's qualified to do the job will be a real benefit to your clients.
Yeah.
And you guys know that. That timber is a special situation for most people. Having people like you along with ourselves to explain, we really want to put a good valuation on that timber on the front end. Will create tax advantages.
Yes.
For you when you ever sell that timber. The expertise that your team brings along with the bank can really benefit somebody who's investing in that for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah. So whenever, I'm talking to someone and they're thinking about potentially purchasing a piece of property, a lot of times, they don't have the funds to just pay cash for it. Right. And they'll say, well, how do I get a loan? Because a lot of banks won't typically loan on, raw acreage and stuff like that, like y'all do. And so, I'll send them y'all's information and they'll, kind of reach out to you and kind of get that preliminary process started. Right. And then, once we locate a piece of property for them and everything, we're able to kind of negotiate the contract terms and get it nailed down. Then we kind of hand them off to y'all, right? And say, hey, this is what they're purchasing. Here's our contract and all that good stuff. So what do y'all? Once we get that contract to y'all, what does that look like from there on y'all's end?
It's an interesting relationship. Certainly, we're reliant upon our name recognition and our ability to market to the East Texas area, so that consumers are aware that we do finance raw land, and that realtors such as y'all know who to reach out to for particular raw land deals. But when we do take over a transaction, we take over. So we first assess the financial capability of the borrower, right. And so we take over. We take a picture of their we take basically a financial picture of their current condition, and so we take their most recent tax returns. We take a current balance sheet and various other entity-related documents if they're buying it under an entity. Then from there, we underwrite the deal. We make sure that we structure it according to their plans for the property and their ability to repay. And then we move from there to assess the condition of the collateral. So we order an appraisal, and that's another relationship that's been critical to how we operate. And it's a testament to Angela in no small part that if we need to get a quick appraisal turnaround, Angela's developed these relationships over the course of her career that we can say, hey, we don't like to do this, but there's extenuating circumstances. And there are very few appraisers that we've worked with that won't be understanding and accommodating to a really quick turnaround request. And that's a huge advantage to have.
Sure, Sam.
Yeah.
And I'll add, just having the right appraiser on the job is critical for financing rural property.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges that we've seen, over the course of my career is, let's just take an example of a typical couple who owns their home. This is a property that they want to buy for recreation, for their family lifestyle. They want to get the kids out of the house and out of the
Right.
city.
Absolutely.
Instead of playing video games, they want to go to the property and adopt that lifestyle. Well, lots of times, because they're comfortable with the process that they went through when they bought their home, they go back to that bank. And that's great. They know them. They know that they pay on time, it's credit worthy.
Right.
But a common mistake is that bank will hire a residential appraiser instead of an agricultural or a timberland appraiser. And that can cause big problems, especially in East Texas, because, many properties are wooded, have commercial timber value.
Right.
And if the appraiser does not know how to value that timber, often the appraisal will come in short, and then we're within 3 days of closing and there's a big problem. Yes.
Yeah.
So knowing who's qualified to do the job will be a real benefit to your clients.
Yeah.
And you guys know that. That timber is a special situation for most people. Having people like you along with ourselves to explain, we really want to put a good valuation on that timber on the front end will create tax advantages.
Yes.
For you when you ever sell that timber. The expertise that your team brings along with the bank can really benefit somebody who's investing in that for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
So Miller, I'm curious, how long do you typically work with a client who's looking to buy some rural property in East Texas?
Yeah. Sometimes, it can be years, where we're trying to find the right property, for somebody. But I would say, once we do locate that piece for them, that special piece that they're looking for, it's, we'll get that offer in, that initial offering in. And it may take a couple days to hear back, or it may take a week sometimes, depending on the seller. If it's a big corporate timber company, or if it's a individual, it can be shorter that way. So yeah, once we get that the initial acceptance of the contract and everything, it's usually I'd say a month, 2 months max, depending on any complications we have with like a survey or the title commitment, getting that back, that kind of stuff. Usually it's like 2 weeks for a title commitment, I would say, usually, and then 3 weeks tops for a survey. So yeah, I would say month and a half, 2 months max for a finance deal for sure. What about y'all's end? How long does that take usually?
It really does depend. You mentioned that sometimes it's years while a customer finds the right property, and sometimes they reach out to us to get pre-qualified on a property that they're confident that this is the one they're ready to move forward with.
Which I think is important. Yeah, definitely that pre-approval goes a long way and helps your buying power. Sorry to cut you off, but know your buying power and know what you can afford and get into, so you're not just searching around, all over the place.
Yeah, no, and we're always happy to pre-approve. We that to us helps our borrower have skin in the game from the jump. Similar to y'all, and as you just outlined. So when a borrower comes to us, and if that original tract falls through, but they're still working with y'all, well, sometimes their pacing slows down until they find the right property, and then it ramps back up, and they're ready to move. What's helpful for us to have a quick process is making sure that we get every bit of information that we need. As we go through the process of now moving from pre-qualification, to make sure that the lending process goes smoothly and uninterrupted, we need to make sure that we get all of the borrower's information up front. And a lot of that is relaying expectations and setting borrower expectations from the jump. Just saying, hey, here's why we need your tax return, so that we can evaluate your ability to repay and the best way that we can structure the deal for you. And here's why we need the balance sheet to make sure that we don't put you in a harmful position in buying this property. so when we provide that information, we don't think that we're just, we're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of forming relationships with people and providing a service to them for the longevity of their plans for the property.
Right.
And we want to ensure that we're a part of that rather than just provide a one-time transaction service. From a timing standpoint, you mentioned the survey and the title commitment. Those are taking place in the background. Those generally can happen concurrent to the transaction taking place. Right. So our expectation that we try to set for borrowers on relatively non-complex transactions, which each transaction presents its unique array of challenges, but for a pretty standard transaction, I think 30 to 45 days is what we try to set from the beginning. We can be quicker than that as while being limited by our external sources, like the appraisal, like the survey, like the title commitment. When there's issues with title, that can delay a transaction. Right. But fortunately, with the relationships that we've built with appraisers and even title companies and also surveyors, it helps when you've worked with them before this one transaction to be able to come back to them and say, hey, how are we looking with closing a week from now or 2 weeks from now? Is this still attainable?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'd add to that, Miller. Many times now, people are forming an LLC to purchase property, especially for larger transactions, and that is perfectly fine by us. It really doesn't complicate the process at all. We just do need to see those LLC documents in advance because our legal team will discern who has the authority to sign for that entity. And the earlier we can get that decided upon, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Texas Farm Credit's understanding of the unique aspects of rural land, particularly as it pertains to timber valuation and East Texas timber markets, provide real advantages to our borrowers, not only in cutting costs, but in saving time and convenience. In much the same way, we look at our relationship with HomeLand Properties, and we look at professionals such as Angela, but Andy and Karen, who've been and others in y'all's office, who've been involved and invested in these markets for the greater part of 30 years. And the experience, the insight that they can provide, not just to their own borrowers, but to the people they work with. Working with Angela has taught me so much about how the process, really the vertical integration of the whole process of finding the piece of property. And so from Texas Farm Credit standpoint, the opportunity to collaborate with HomeLand Properties and work with people like yourselves, but also to blend the experience of Angela and Karen and Andy and others in y'all's office and within our industry who have countless years of experience working with countless transactions, taking care of borrower needs, taking care of customer needs, and who have a unique finger on the pulse of East Texas rural land markets. It's tremendous for us, and we recognize what an advantage it is to work with borrowers that are coming from HomeLand Properties, and we recognize what a privilege it is to participate with y'all on different consumer transactions. Thank y'all.
Yeah, no, we appreciate y'all very much as well. It's always a pleasure to come out and see you guys and be able to work with y'all on things. Y'all are just, the paramount professionals, I would like to say. Every time I talk to you guys, y'all are always very astute and know what's going on and know how to navigate situations. So we appreciate y'all very much as well.
Like you guys too, we're very interested in the success of the industry and in the community. I know you guys are very involved with the Texas Forestry Association, so are we. Yeah. And also in educating people who might not be that familiar with how to manage their timberland. Yeah. I know from others, you can put them in contact with foresters, with somebody who needs to drill a water well or build a fence or something like that. And we kind of run in those same circles too. And so all of those contacts and relationships really bring one-stop shopping to
Mhm.
somebody who's looking for real estate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
I don't have too much more to add apart from, you know, the significance of relationships over transactions, and the fact that Homeland operates, from our perspective, we watch Homeland and every agent that we come across that works with y'all operating from a similar mindset.
Yeah.
And that's tremendously valuable for us.
I think to wrap it up from my perspective, buying a piece of Texas land sometimes is a family's biggest achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a privilege to help them through that process. And it's really something that is going to create a legacy for their family, and really to be involved in the stewardship of that land and all of the many gifts that God has blessed us with here in Texas.
Yeah.
It's just an honor to work with good people who are wanting to own a part of that as well.
It is. Yeah, it's very special, for sure. And it's always nice to, you know, see it all come to fruition, and everyone's, you know, they're happy and excited, and, you know, they get done at the closing table and they're ready to go out to the piece of property, and they got their buggy and you know, hooked up, and they're ready to go, you know. So it's awesome. We enjoy it. Wrap it up and by saying thank you all to allowing us to come to Nacogdoches at y'all's office. This place is stunning. So yeah, we just appreciate y'all, and hopefully we get to work together in the future.
Thank you for having us. It's always wonderful to collaborate with you and your team, and look forward to many more years of a good partnership together.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
All right. It really is our privilege. I'm sorry to add in or cut in here at the end, but can't convey enough how much we appreciate the opportunity to work with y'all, not only on podcasts, but on advancing the mission of rural land ownership across East Texas. So, thank you.
Thank y'all. And y'all stay tuned for our next episode 12. I think it's going to be another good one. See y'all.